Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the timeless principles of Ayurveda, discover practical tips for enhancing vitality, and explore the deeper dimensions of spirituality that intertwine with the ancient science of life.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is a meeting of hearts, a gathering of friends to inquire into the truth. Today, we are, as part of our journey into exploring the path of healing, we are looking at the stages of grief. So the first set of the stages of grief that we have are the Kubler-Ross stages of grief that come from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. But here's a very funny thing about this. These 5 stages of grief from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross were actually created as the stages that a hospice patient goes through during the terminal diagnosis. That's actually what it is. And I have to say that back in the day, that's what it was too. And then somehow it changed. It morphed into being the stages of the grief process, which kind of fits, although the second model, which I've titled Another Model, actually fits a bit better. So back in the day, when I was a junior doctor, I absolutely saw our terminal patients going through these stages of grief. I learned a lot about human beings' ability to practice denial. Someone could be there in the side ward where you put the soon-to-die terminal patients so they can have a little peace and quiet. Back in the day when a ward was like a row of beds, people didn't have rooms, but the side ward would often be for a terminal patient. And the patient could be lying there completely yellow with terrible ascites, like a really big belly full of fluid. And I remember sort of like palpating. I had to palpate the ascites because we had to actually draw off the fluid to make the patient more comfortable. And mentioning it and her face looking a little horrified and then shifting again. Like she was actually able to deny that she was jaundiced and deny that she had ascites and see herself in a whole different light. I also remember one of my patients at the West Suffolk Hospital. Every morning we had a ward round with the consultant, my boss, and the registrar was like in between the consultant and me, and the ward sister and everyone. We'd all be going around from bed to bed. And we got to this one bed, and this man called out, "There's my doctor!" Not meaning Dr. Evans, the consultant. My lady doctor! Because patients often think that the junior doctor that is there when they need something in the middle of the night is their doctor. She's my lady doctor. I like her. She knows everything that's going on with me, and she's not telling me because I don't want to know. Pretty clear, huh? I mean, that was a message to me, like, don't you dare tell me anything. I just want to peacefully die, and I don't want to know about this stuff. He didn't want to know. He didn't want to be afflicted with the knowledge of his condition. So I gradually came to understand that denial is an important capability that we have because it helps us to keep calm and carry on. It's built into our psyche. It's not like a bad thing, and you shouldn't be trying to break down a patient's denial because it's right for them. As long as they need to do it, is how long they need to do it. The next stage that I definitely saw patients going through is the anger. Why me? Why is this happening to me? I have to say, I go through this too. I can feel angry with God or angry with the gurus for, like, why? Why aren't you taking care of me better? Which is okay, because if you look in the book of Psalms, it is full of David is always kvetching to God, like, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Even Jesus repeated that verse from the psalm when he was on the cross. Like, it's okay to feel that anger about our fate because it's part of it. And then comes the bargaining, sort of like, I mean, it's built into certain traditions. Like, if you let me go get well, then I'll go to your temple and I'll offer this thing. We try to strike some kind of a bargain so that if only I would promise this, this, and this, I'll never smoke again, I'll never drink again, if you just let me get well. That is a phase that I've seen people go through. As it becomes increasingly obvious that the bargain isn't going to accomplish anything. There's nobody to bargain with. I mean, God doesn't work like that. God doesn't have a stall where you can bargain for your life. Things are just going to unfold as they must. It can be pretty easy to sink into depression. When someone is terminally ill, they face a very big loss. When they see their loved ones, they think about how soon they will never see them again. All of them. All their loved ones will be gone for them. When they go, when they see their beloved places, they think, I'm not going to see these places much longer. We have a friend who has terminal cancer, and gifting him a calendar, which is what we give people for their presents, is always a little like, is this a really good present for this person? It's counting though. Is he gonna look at the calendar and think, at which point in this calendar will I not be here to look at the calendar anymore? So there's a lot of loss, a loss of a sense of purpose when we are no longer able to do the things that gave our life meaning. There can be a lot of depression that happens to a sick person, and one hopes to see that moment of acceptance. I noticed that with a patient and friend who was dying of breast cancer, and she was doing everything to save her life. But when the time came, she relaxed completely. And it helped me to see that death is a door, and as long as it's closed, it's closed. And we fear that door. We dread that door, and we will do everything we can do to keep that door stay shut. But when the door opens, it's open. It's effortless. The door opens, and the person walks through the door. It's easeful when the time comes. That's obviously different if someone's someone is suffering from a death sentence or gets killed, because they would never have the feeling of that door opening. But with illness, I've seen it. The door opens. When it's open, calmly, often happily, walking through the door. So these are very valid as the stages of grief that a person goes through when they come to know that they will be soon to leave this life. We are all soon to leave this life. Soon in hours, soon in days, soon in weeks, soon in months, or soon in years, or soon in decades, but some kind of soon. I like the other model better when it comes to I like the other model better when it comes to our own actual grief. And the first stage in this other model is numbness and denial. And that is definitely a very important stage when we experience a big loss. When somebody dies, when, God forbid, our house burns down, when there's a huge loss, it's really important that we get that typically a week or two of numbness, because that's what enables us to just keep moving along, sort out the funeral arrangements and the will and the belongings that have to soon be sorted out. It can often take a year or two to sort out belongings, I've found. But sorting things out is needed. There are actions that have to be taken. If it's a loss of the home, then some other kind of accommodation has to get sorted. The kids have to get to school. Like, there are all these actions we have to take. And that grace period of numbness, and it can even be a kind of euphoria, but that grace period of numbness can be extremely important in helping us to get through what we've got to get through. So I think that's why that numbness is meant to happen. And yeah, I've seen so many times my natural tendency to denial when something really bad happens, like when somebody dies, that I'm doing the denial. I remember when a dear friend of the community, a dear alum, her first child was stillborn. And because I found out about it on Facebook, I just wanted to believe it hadn't happened. So I hadn't really been told, I only saw it on Facebook, and I kept trying to convince myself. Somehow I didn't want to be able to really believe it unless I had heard it in words in my ear. It was really hard to believe it. You hear that a friend is dying or dies, and is it true? Is that real? It can't be. Not them, but it is. So we have a natural tendency to say, when bad news comes, to say no. I don't believe it. What? That can't have happened. And that's, again, part of how we protect ourselves. When my dad died, apparently this was due to a kind of sleeping pill my mom had, but she woke up in the morning the day after he died, and she said, "Where's Peter?" Where is he? I think something's happened to him, and maybe it's not good. And when she got over the confusion that they had to change out the pill, but it's it's a classic example of how what we do, how we protect ourselves. So when that kind of denial happens, the reality is that person did die, or that house did burn down, or whatever it is. That's the reality. However much you deny it, it's still going to be true. But there are in these moments of denial, our psyche is protecting itself, just as in these moments of numbness, this typical 2 weeks period of numbness, we are protecting ourselves while we can move ahead with the things we need to move ahead with. Recalling when there were the terrible fires in southern France, and Al Jazeera was with this man whose home and collection of classic cars, his farm, everything was gone. I was glad Al Jazeera was there to let him speak to someone, i.e., to them and to the whole world, as he spoke of the tristesse, of the immense sadness that he felt because he had not been able to save what he received from his parents and his grandparents. The house and the farm that had been in his family for generations. And he's just like sitting there among the embers, stunned. So we definitely go through this very essential time of numbness and denial. And then can come this next stage, which in the other model is not necessarily anger. It may or may not be anger. It may also be yearning. Because of my previous life as a junior doctor, I have brutally experienced the anger. Because there was many a time when I was the one who had to call the family into the special room, have them sit down and tell them their loved one died. And the natural response that they have is to be extremely angry with you. Why did you let them die? It's got to be someone's fault. I mean, they were in hospital so they wouldn't die, right? So it's natural to want to lash out in anger when somebody dies. It's natural to seek a person to blame, whether it's the doctors, whether it's the cigarette manufacturers, yeah, or the opioid manufacturers, who really deserve for us to be angry with them, by the way. Whether it's God, whoever it is, we want to find someone to be angry with because it kind of gives a place for those emotions to flow to. But that second stage of grief is really not all about anger. It can also be about yearning. We it's a huge hole. It's a very you just want that person to be there and they're not. I remember after my dad died, uh, it was pretty soon after he died that it was the Boulder International Film Festival. And because then 16-year-old friend Rebecca was staying with us, we wanted to do special things with her, including taking her to the Biff, her and her sister. And we went to a film about yurt people. I'm going to start crying just thinking about it, because the whole time during that film, I was crying because all I could think of was how much my dad would enjoy seeing a film on yurt people, because it was just the kind of thing that he would like. So the yearning is it's an ache in the heart and the belly. It's a powerful feeling, because you really miss that person and you just want them back. Couldn't you just have another day with them? Couldn't you just see them again? Couldn't you just get a little more time with them? Another thing I want to say about these stages of grief is it's not sequential. I think that the numbness probably doesn't go on after those first 2 weeks, but in between the numbness, there'll be times of anger, times of yearning, and so on. And after that, these next few stages kind of it's a almost like a spiral. We go through the yearning and the anger, and gradually we realize that person's not coming back. We're not going to see them. And that's where we can feel despair. If that was one of the most important people in our life, like if we just got widowed, we just lost a child, we can feel this. We just lost our home that we had built. We can feel despair. We don't know what to do without that person or that home or whatever it is. We feel a great sadness. I remember after Dad died, I just have this feeling that something was very wrong, and I'd have to stop myself and say, yes, something is wrong. I'd have this feeling that something was missing. Something is missing. Yes, something is missing. Your father is missing. He died. I just have to keep telling myself that every time, this like awful, like funny feeling that something's missing. Yep, something really is missing and not coming back either. And along with that despair and sadness, there is definitely a level of withdrawal that is important to happen. I have a very dear friend who tends to suffer from depression, and she got in a very bad depression right after my mum died. And eventually she came and she kind of scolded me for not reaching out to her during her depression. And I just looked at her and I said her name, which I'm not going to say. My mother died. My mother died. And she burst into tears because she got it. Not only was I not able to reach out to her because my mother died, she was not able to reach out to me because of her depression. So we had gone through a pretty long period when neither of us have the capacity to reach out to each other, despite being dearmost friends. It's a very natural withdrawal and something that we want to be very aware of when we're working with or relating to someone that's been through a big loss. It doesn't work to say, let me know if you need any help, because they won't. Because that's way too much to do. What works is to say, I'm bringing you dinner tomorrow. Is that good? What would you like me to bring? Does soup sound good? What works is to call them up and say, I'm wanting to know how you're doing and whether you'd like to go into the countryside with me today. You have to reach out. If you're not the person that's going through an intense grief process, you need to really concretely reach out. We can't expect that someone who has lost a loved one will be able to reach out and ask for what they need because of that withdrawal. So that state of despair, sadness, and withdrawal can go on for a long time because it's a long process. These stages could also be for the ending of a marriage, not by death, but by divorce. There's many different kinds of grief that can put us into this state, but when we're in it, it looks a lot like depression, but it's not. Because depression is an illness. It comes on when our life is basically quite all right. Depression is an illness where we feel these feelings like sadness and withdrawal, despite the fact that if you looked at it rationally, several billion people would rather have your life than theirs. Because you have food, because you have a place to live, whatever it is. So depression is an illness, and it needs to be treated with the Brahmi tea, all the things we do to treat depression. Medicine, Western medicine as needed, because depression can be dangerous. But grief isn't an illness. It's completely normal. It's completely natural. It is right. I would almost say we owe it to that parent, that spouse, that sibling, that child, that embryo, that loved one. We owe them this. We owe them this time of sadness and withdrawal. It is the necessary mourning that it's required. So we shouldn't pathologize being in grief. If it goes on beyond a couple of years, unremittingly, maybe it's become unresolved grief and it has become depression. But it's not like somebody dies, have a funeral, boom, boom, on to the next thing. It's just not like that. It takes time. And what looks like withdrawal is the needed process that leads on to the fourth and fifth stages. So that fourth stage is reorganization. And we have to allow ourselves that withdrawal and that sadness and that acknowledgement that we are in a different state in order to allow that reorganization to happen. And we just have to know that it will happen. It does happen. If it doesn't happen, there has to be some kind of additional help, because that's an unresolved grief. We have things we do for unresolved grief. We have teas that are given, nose drops that are given, altar therapy that's done. We have things that we do when the grief doesn't resolve, but it should resolve in the reorganization, where we start to find the ability to create an inner as well as an outer life for ourselves without that thing. There's still many a time. It's been, oh my God, it's been 10 years, almost 10 years, 10 years come October, since Mum died. And of course, I still want to call her up and ask how you make such and such a thing, or did this thing really happen? But it's a very long distance call. So you're always going to miss that person. No one can ever be replaced. The empty seat at the table is always going to be empty. But yet we do reorganize our life, our inner life as well as our everyday life, in a new way. There's a transformation that happens and that leads us on to the stage number 5 in this other model, the letting go and the moving on. That it does happen. I mean, I still miss my dad, and he died on New Year's Eve at the end of 2008, and I still really, really miss him. But at this point, if he hadn't died, he'd be dead by now, because he'd be 100, and not many people do live to be 100. People do die. And so you do let go while still recognizing that you miss that person. As my therapist said, any trauma or big loss will shift from being your entire reality to a picture on the wall. It won't be gone. But it'll be a picture on the wall, and there'll be your life that is happening, and you will think about how that person wants you to be happy. By and large, I mean, it's much more complicated if you are mourning the loss of someone who didn't desire your happiness. It's a very difficult thing to resolve. You need a lot of help. But by and large, that person desires your happiness, your success, your prosperity, your good fortune. That person would want you to do these certain things. Like when Sadananda and I are doing our activism for world peace, we're always doing it with my parents, because that was their thing too. They raised me for this. That's what they wanted. They wanted to raise someone who they wanted to raise a child who would say no to the next Hitler. That was the intention. So there's lots and lots of things that I'm doing in my life when I'm thinking or even saying out loud, I want you to know my parents are here too. Or even my grandparents are here too, depending on what the thing is. They're behind this. They want this. We have their support for this. And that's where, if the person that you lost is moving into the realm of the ancestors, they're becoming someone that is guiding you. If they're a parent, they're truly in the realm of the ancestors. If it's a spouse you lost, a life partner you lost, they're still with you. They're still guiding you. They're still your partner. Even if you're married again, they're still there wanting the best for you. If it's a child, a baby, an unborn child, they're in a Pure Land guide. They're in an angelic realm. They're an angel in your life guiding you. So they're always going to be there in our life. We lost the very first child in I'm trying to figure out how to say the name of that generation. Like, I have nieces and nephews. My parents had grandchildren, but then great nieces, great nephews. That generation, we lost the first one. He was stillborn. He's still a part of our family. He was the firstborn of his generation. He's still a part of our family. We never got to meet him. He never got to take a breath, but he's still a part of our family. He's still present with us from the Pure Land, from an angelic realm. He's still leading, guiding, supporting, helping all of us. We just have to tune in. To me, a very important part of letting go and moving on is you let go of one manifestation, one physical body manifestation, the person you could visit, the person you could call up on the phone, the person you could email or text, the person who sent you a present at Christmas. They're not there anymore. But they are still there in another realm. And we move on with them, without their physical presence, but with them. And even if it's something else like the house you built with all your love, it's physically gone. But something was created in the universe with all the love and the care that you put into that. I'll never forget that man we saw on Al Jazeera who had lost his family farm and was in such grief. And I really hope he's able to find peace and resolution and a way to bring on in his life all the love and care that he, his parents, his grandparents put into that home, because all that love and care has a permanent impact. There's a teaching from Thomas Aquinas which says that everything that has ever existed exists eternally in God. That's nice because it's also kitty heaven. And I didn't talk about losing a pet, but honestly, losing my cat Rajaram was absolutely huge, and so huge that your first thought is you want to get another cat, right? Like you want to get another cat right away, as if that would somehow take away the I- maybe that's bargaining, the absolute despair of losing that friend, that beautiful being who was with you all the time. You know, the being that slept on a magnet pet pad on your feet. It's so painful. Um, but there is kitty heaven, even according to Thomas Aquinas, because all your pets exist eternally in God. Not just the blip of the happy memory of that loving being that was a part of your life for those few short years, but they still exist. The home you built still exists. Everything still exists. Not because everything has a divine idea that it was formed from, and it doesn't go away. So that's a lovely thought from scholastic theology. Everything is impermanent. That's true. All compounded entities must inevitably decay in as much as they are compounded entities, in as much as they are expressions, divine ideas, expressions of the mind of God, expressions of the Dharmakaya, expressions of love and compassion and joy. They always exist, and they can't really be gone. So, yeah, grief is a great unfolder in our life, because one thing is sure, that unless we never draw a breath ourselves, like Arlo, we will lose people we love. We will lose animals we love. We will lose places we love, perhaps countries we love. We will lose because anitya, anatta, and dukkha, because everything is impermanent. Everything is empty. And sorrow is one of the profound ways that we learn and grow. So we're all going to have to deal with grief and the unsettlement that it brings. That everything is going along just great. I'm doing so well. I'm moving ahead with my health goals. I'm learning. I'm growing. Everything's great. Bam! Everything's changed because I'm going through a grief process. That's a part of the letting go, is just flowing with the fact that life isn't a smooth trajectory towards the way that I want it. These things will come in that will make us feel the yearning, feel the despair, feel the withdrawal. And with every layer of reorganization, with every layer of letting go and moving on, we will become enriched. We will grow in depth. We will grow in empathy. We will grow in compassion. We'll grow in experience that we can share with others. In a lot of ways, I feel happy about all the bad things that have happened in my life because they're all helpful in clinic. Because if I can find a little resonance with what this person who's sitting before me has gone through, that's good. That's so good. And if they can know that I've been there too, that I've walked that too, maybe not exactly what they've been through, but enough for a resonance, for a shared experience. Because the human realm is about the heart that breaks open and our journey in compassion.
Thank you for tuning in to Ayurveda and Spirituality with Alakananda Ma. We hope today's exploration has ignited a spark of curiosity and insight within you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and share it with a friend. For more enlightening discussions and practical wisdom on Ayurveda and spirituality, subscribe and join our Facebook group, Alundi Ayurveda. To allow us to continue sharing valuable content, consider donating to Alundi Ashram. The links will be in the show notes. Until next time, may you walk the path of Ayurveda with grace and embrace the light of spiritual wisdom in your journey.
Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtiva